Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
Members of the transgendered community are speaking out in a bid to educate the public on the issues they face.
A group of pastors pray for direction in the upcoming referendum.
The social services minister responds to reports of fraud in her department. That story straight ahead.
To our news, I'm Christina McNeil. Thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight, in the wake of fears that the fourth constitutional amendment bill may pave the way for same-sex marriage, members of the transgender community are speaking out. President and director of LGBT activist group, the DeMarco Foundation, Alexis DeMarco, says the transgender community just wants to be treated like everyone else, with dignity and respect. Dana Smith reports.
One member of the group said, "Don't judge us before you get to know us." They explained they just want to let the public know that they exist, they have rights, and they're not going anywhere.
We're not here to push our beliefs or anything on anybody. We're just here to try to get you to understand we're all humans also, and we want to be respected as that.
It's never me changing my life. It was always who I was. I never had to decide or figure out what I was or who I was. I always knew that who I was as a person. I always knew that I was different from the other boys.
President and director of LGBT activist group the DeMarco Foundation, Alexis DeMarco, said members of the transgender community decided to let their voices be heard in a bid to bring their concerns to the table. 21-year-old Felicity Peaches Smith said life as a young transgendered woman hasn't been easy.
I was harassed, tormented, bullied, all of the above, just to be who I wanted to be. And it's just, and everybody, the first thing they want to get at when they say that, when they see you acting like a certain way, a boy acting a certain way, they want to get at that you're gay. They want to get to your they want to get to your sexual orientation. I mean, I haven't identified with being gay.
Smith said she left school in grade 11 after she was chased out and explained she has difficulty finding a decent job because she is a transgendered woman. 28-year-old Alicia Seymour, a fashion designer by trade, also spoke to reporters about her experience.
I've never really had so much of a challenge. It was just getting people to understand who I was.
Tori Colmer, who was among those in Parliament Square last month cheering on the passage of the 4 constitutional bills, said today she really doesn't care about the outcome of the referendum.
Yes, we expect backlash. That's automatic because everyone can start saying, "Oh, we're trying to get this referendum passed." It's having nothing to do with the referendum. I could care either way about the referendum. We want equal rights for all, but I'm not here to change people's perception of what the referendum is or isn't. I'm here to say we're here demanding respect for who we are. We are not going anywhere anytime soon. Actually, we are growing in numbers.
Why are you going to discriminate against one set of people and another set of people get the privileges? That's discrimination. You understand? So the thing about it is, I'm glad that the topic of referendum and all of this stuff is coming about because we live in la-la land in this country. And unless we come forward as humans and as Bahamians and stand up for our own rights, things will begin to move and change.
DeMarco said most transgendered individuals in the Bahamas do not come forward or are invisible because of stigma and discrimination.
The church has done more damage than good to helping this type of community. They have outcast them. Jesus came into the community. Jesus went to the woman at the well, and Jesus said, "He that is without sin cast the first stone."
Reporting for Our News, I'm Dana Smith.
Well, Deputy Prime Minister Philip Brave Davis has dismissed controversial comments made by former Court of Appeal President Dame Joan Sawyer, who described the upcoming constitutional referendum as a waste of time. Vonique Toot reports.
Davis says one would think the former Court of Appeal president would have looked at the 4 referendum questions and informed herself before asserting that the gender vote is unnecessary. Dame Joan also said she would vote no if she votes. The Deputy Prime Minister says that's not the Dame Joan Sawyer he knows.
I'm surprised that she would so conclude without having at least reading the questions and the proposed amendments, if that's what she said. Because what you're saying to me is that she has made up her mind to vote no, and has been able to describe the efforts as a non sequitur, and she's doing so without first informing herself. That's not the Dame Sawyer that I know, Dame Joan Sawyer. She usually would look at the facts, get the information before concluding.
Dame Jones said there are 2 provisions in the Constitution that deal with discrimination and argued that government is drawing out of the Constitution what is already there. However, Davis said those 2 articles do not go far enough.
One has to recognize is that a Constitutional Commission was appointed. They made recommendations for amendments to the Constitution. The government is acting upon their recommendation. This is something that we think morally we ought to do. It's not about equating man and woman as being equal, but rather that being man and woman we have the same citizen rights and obligations. Why not have the same rights under the law?
Dame Joan is the latest prominent person to come out against the referendum. Some church leaders who campaigned against the gaming referendum back in 2013 are now encouraging voters to reject question 4, which they fear will pave the way for same-sex marriage in the Bahamas. Davis says he finds that troubling.
Anyone who really understands the law, assess all of the legal ramifications for the language being used, for them to come up with such is far-fetched, and it is troubling, and it really speaks to something other than a true appreciation of the law.
Asked if he fears a referendum will fail, Davis said this.
This referendum is not for government. This referendum is not for government. This is for the people of the Bahamas. It is for my children, my grandchildren, your children, your grandchildren. This is not a government's referendum.
Reporting for our News, I'm Vonique Toot.
And while some pastors are encouraging their congregations to vote no and some to vote yes in the upcoming constitutional referendum, there are some now calling for people to vote as instructed by God. Retired pastor Jeremiah Duncombe, president of Bahamas Global Impact Prayer and Fasting Network, wants people to fast.
Today, we are here to launch a national prayer offensive to prevent our country from being hijacked. As the people of the Bahamas is faced with a critical issue of voting in a referendum on Tuesday, June 7, 2016, on the 4 proposed constitutional amendment bills, the Bahamas Global Impact Prayer and Fasting.
Several pastors have formed Save Our Bahamas and are urging people to vote no to question 4, which seeks to end discrimination based on sex. While there are others, including Global United Fellowship leader Neil Ellis and Anglican Bishop Laish Boyd, who see no reason to object to any of the bills. According to Duncombe, the country is being hijacked.
There are 3 aspects of this. The first is to pray for the people of the Bahamas to seek God's wisdom and guidance on voting on these 4 proposed constitutional bills. Secondly, the global network, we are advocating for no change to the preamble to the Constitution.
The fast begins on Friday at 6:30, where Duncombe will be leading a service at Thanksgiving in Rawson Square. In other news, Social Services Minister Melanie Griffin says she cannot deny reports of fraud within her department. This is allegations of fraud, gross negligence, and destruction of documents to conceal fraud have been made. Kyle Joaquin has the breakdown.
Griffin said for years, successive governments have known that the paper system at the Department of Social Services made it much easier for fraud to take place, which is why she said the contents of that Auditor General's report came as no surprise. Auditor General Terrence Bastian has found that staff members at the Department of Social Services have participated in what he called a fraudulent scheme where some of them used coupons intended for payments on welfare on themselves for groceries. The department employees reportedly used just over $1,000 worth. And in November of 2014, government launched its prepaid social services card, an attempt to stop that type of behavior.
Which meant that we were able to abolish, for the most part, the food coupons. And so we have not actually printed food coupons for quite a few months now.
But that's not all the Auditor General found. He discovered that over $4.2 million were paid to suppliers without the proper authorization. All vendor requests and payments are supposed to be signed off by executive management and the department's finance officer. However, 7 vendor payments ranging between $300,000 to $900,000 were found to have not been approved by senior management.
The report has been laid in Parliament. I expect that there will be further investigations, and I would not wish to preempt it, so I don't wish to speak to that at this time.
But there is more. That report also found that senior members of the Accounts Department staff had given instructions to destroy, by way of shredding, accounting records for the years 2010 to 2013. Bastian said, "It was noted that instructions were given to destroy government documentation to conceal a fraud relating to food coupons and medical assistance due to collusion between several staff members." His report said some of the department's employees were attempting to cover their tracks. In the wake of all this, Griffin indicated that heads have begun to roll.
Disciplinary actions have already been taken, and I'm certain there might be further actions.
All this comes as the government continues to battle accusations of corruption, to which Griffin responded last week after being ratified as the PLP's candidate for Yamacraw.
That is why we must not back down. That is why when they call us corrupt, we must stand tall, because we know in whom we believe. And one thing the Bible says, that the steps of a righteous man is ordered by God.
For our news, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Thanks, Kyle. After the break, examining a rise in child abuse cases on a particular island. Our news has that and more on the other side of this break.